This is going really old school CCD style. It's a Canon IXUS V3 and it's only got 3.2 megapixels. But that is probably the utter minimum that you would need if you go with 6x4 shots. So the regular size prints that you can make, you really can just about get away with it at 3.2. I would say ideally 4 megapixels is probably the lowest that you would go, but in this case 3.2 will be just about doable. So you can still use this today for your normal regular shots. This camera exudes real quality. For a camera that's 22 years old, it's in fantastic condition. The rubber's just about intact. I would not recommend pulling things out to plug things in because you might just break the rubber. It does deteriorate. And again, on the battery compartment here, it's still intact. So I would just keep my finger away from that because I don't want to damage that. So you can see it's a made in Japan model, which a lot of the earlier cameras were. And this one doesn't suffer from the issue of the bad CCDs that was a real problem for a lot of cameras in the kind of middle 2000s. So this sensor is one of the lucky ones. I think it might have been Sony sensors from what I can remember, but you can see here it's got a very small screen. This is really only good for just setting up the camera and to quickly review your pictures that you've taken, probably indoors because it's not going to be particularly bright. But what this camera has, which a lot of cameras did away with, was an optical viewfinder. So there is a very useful addition on this camera. It's got this kind of standard controls. It's a little bit, I guess, on the chunkier side, but it's a really nice kind of weighted camera. The zoom is obviously limited to, I think it's not even 3 times actually, it's 2 times zoom I think on this camera. Possibly got the digital option to kind of get more of a zoom, but obviously you're not going to enable that. And this bit here is quite interesting. So although it's got the Canon name on it, it's probably a way of just positioning the camera for taking pictures of yourself at arm's length. It seems to allow you to fill your face in there really well and then take the picture, and yeah, and you find that you're pretty well centered. So it's got quite a nice built-in flash here and options for phone. Now I'll turn the camera on shortly once the battery is fully up to charge. It is a really old school camera in that it's using compact flash. Now these compact flash memory cards, and I guess like a lot of other memory cards from that era, a lot of people aren't going to be familiar with them. So pressing here, it does take out quite a lot of the camera really. So 64 megabytes is a huge amount of space for the sensor of the camera, and it's almost indestructible. Definitely one that you're not going to lose quite as easily as a modern memory card. And it just pushes in nicely. So to read the images off of the camera, I've got a couple of standalone memory card readers, which I guess in their own right are a little bit vintage, so that they will allow me to put one of these cards in and to just look at it on a computer and then take off the pictures that I'm interested in. So that's good. So it's nice to have a switch here to select between review, video or normal camera picture taking. Some cameras did away with some of these options. Quite a few cameras were okay in that if you wanted to quickly switch to video mode, then they might have had a separate button for that. And some of the kind of cheaper cameras did at some stage need you to go back into the menu system to select the camera mode. And if you wanted to do video, it wasn't a case of just being able to do that really quickly. You had to go into the settings, quickly select it, and then start shooting your video. So that obviously takes time. And then if you want to obviously go back to taking pictures again, potentially you have to then go back into a menu system again to select the camera picture taken. So yeah, always good to have the option of a switch. So well done Canon there. Lovely brushed finished aluminium, and you can see it's got quite a few nice little functions here. One to do the delete, the display options on the screen. You've got the menu in the set, and then the kind of cursor type options here, which allow you to go around the menu settings, but also if you want to force flash or go into timer, change your focus in and go between kind of macro and normal sort of wider shots than you can. It's got some little lights on here that show up. So just waiting for the battery to charge. Let's hope it does, because I'd like to show you some of the menu system. Quite a stylish camera as well for the time. I just like the way everything's kind of etched in here. It's not going to be that cheap, is it, to do this sort of thing? But yeah, it's all kind of etched in on there. The everything about the lens. The lens is actually quite fast. It's 2.8, so it's not too shabby there. Not really. I'll just show you the charger that I'm using. So this is a Canon CB2L SE. It's a multi-voltage one, and basically when it's charging it goes red, and when it's charged it goes green. And the battery that you'll need is the NB1L, and it's a 3.7 volts. It's a standard lithium battery. It's quite kind of basic looking, the connections there. One thing I did find, because it had been left in the camera for a while, was it didn't charge very well straight away, and what I had to do is I had to kind of keep removing the battery and then putting it back in again, like repeatedly several times, to get the actual red charge light to stay on. So that's a little tip there. If you think your battery's kaput, it may just be really, really low. And another word of warning is these cameras from this sort of vintage, they are terrible for recording video and expecting the battery to last any length of time. And the other thing as well is if you're using this display, okay, to take your pictures rather than looking through the viewfinder, because you can actually turn this off, you will obviously use up tons of energy that way as well. So they are very kind of power hungry devices from that era. Okay, so hold in for a second. As you can see, a little bit fussy starting. So I've shown you the menu system, and just wanted to show you the lens a little bit more. It's quite a standard arrangement for the time, and it doesn't seem to be doing very much, not moving very much, so that kind of explains its limitation, I think. The fact it's only a 2x zoom makes a bit of a racket as well, doesn't it? But that probably was standard. That would have been the standard sound that you would have expected. So I'm just going to go back into the menu just this time, and you've got various settings here. So this is the best setting, and then it kind of drops down. It's telling you the resolution as you go. So this is for the camera. There's like a normal quality, like a fine quality. So that's what that's all about. Digital zoom I've got off. Timer set, if you do select it, you'll get 10 seconds or 2 seconds. So the timer, yeah, is basically on that there. So 2-second review, I think. Autofocus on. A numbering system there. Off. Is that numbering on the actual picture? Can't remember. On off here. Oh, sorry. File number reset. That's what that is. I'm not reading the screen. And auto rotate. So that's pretty ahead of its time. So that's like when you're reviewing. And then I went through this before. But it's a nice tidy little screen actually, but we're going to see a minute if I can get it to switch off. Yeah, there you go. So my advice is the camera's on, obviously, but the screen is now off. And this was another kind of big feature, and that was really important, to be able to save power, not powering that screen and looking through there instead. So the only thing I would say is it's not adjustable here. So if you do need glasses, potentially that could be a bit of an issue. You might just have to point and hope rather than point and shoot. Now I did have slightly later models and maybe earlier models in this as well. I think the earlier ones are okay, but the later one, there was a 5 megapixel camera, and that suffered from the dreaded CCD sensor issues. So that one was no good. But this one, as you can see, the sensor's absolutely fine. Well, you can see when I show you the display. Yes, the sensor there is absolutely fine. This little camera, although it's only got a 2x optical lens, you do get 35 to 70mm, and it's a reasonable fast lens. As I mentioned, it's an f2.8 going up to f4. There are manual as well as autofocus options, a 9.2 TTL for focusing, and the actual images are nice and sharp. The lens is really nice on this camera. ISO on the lower side, so going from 50 to 400, and quite a variable shutter speed from 15 seconds right up to 1 and 1500. There's some nice little effects, so you can have black and white, sepia. You can change the sharpening of the photos that you take as well. Well, thank you for watching. Please can you like and subscribe? Maybe let me know some of your thoughts about trying to use some of these old cameras, and whether or not maybe this was your first ever digital camera, one like this. But it would have been a nice one to have. Pretty nice design, this camera. Okay, thank you again, and like and subscribe, and I shall do some more videos, and I'll try to do some more camera videos in the future. Bye for now.